There are two ways to access cardinality. One way is through counting, a student being able to tell how many by remembering the last number counted in a set. And another way is through subitizing, students being able to see amounts without counting. To provide a little bit more structure and support around subitizing, this year we have beefed up our subitizing daily routine. The routine is now a teacher-led routine that students will participate in daily for quarters 1 through 4. Why subitizing? Subitizing supports student understanding of number combinations and prepares them to add numerals with meaning. 5 and 10 frames help students build fluency and structure their thinking around the critical ideas of groups of 10 by seeing numbers in multiple ways, learning number combinations, working with place value, and computing addition and subtraction. There are two types of subitizing: perceptual subitizing and conceptual subitizing. Perceptual subitizing is when one can tell how many without counting, and this can occur with images up to 4 or 5 objects. Some questions you want to ask students when they are perceptually subitizing is, what did you see? So what was the total that you saw flashed on the screen? And did you have to count? The student response should be no, that it was too quick to count and they just saw it. You want to make a big deal out of this. You want students to see those small amounts quickly without having to count. You as a teacher are listening for a strong 100% choral response. Conceptual subitizing is the ability to combine small sets of numbers or number combinations. This can be accomplished in several ways. One way is to memorize a specific pattern of numbers. When a child learns that 2 columns of 3 on a die make 6, the child is memorizing a pattern for 6. With explicit training, however, students can combine numbers non-verbally to determine the sum of 2 sets of numbers. Some questions you want to ask students as they are conceptually subitizing is, what did you see? So again, what was that total that was flashed on the screen? And how did you see it? So that's where they would explain to you the number combinations that they were able to put together to come up with that total. And then the last question you want to ask is, did anyone see it a different way? This allows students to hear different combinations and ways that students could see those number combinations differently in the arrangements. Again, as a teacher, you are listening for a strong 100% choral response. We are going to move and look at a few slides and practice some of this together. So I'm going to flash a few slides from your subitizing daily routine for you to view. As you look at these slides, I want you to think to yourself, are these examples of perceptual subitizing or conceptual? And what kind of questions will I be asking my students as they view these slides? So we've just looked at 3 slides that have the total 4 on the slides. The first 2 slides can easily be utilized as perceptual slides because 4 was just there. It's something that the students should be able to see really quickly without necessarily decomposing that number. That last slide is an example of a conceptual slide, a conceptual subitizing slide, in which you saw 4, which was made up of 2 groups of 2. So we're going to look at a few more slides. So you just saw 2 slides of 3, where the first slide was more conceptual because you could see the 3 was made up of a 1 and a 2, or someone could easily see the 2 and the 1 and then be able to put those amounts together to come up with 3. Whereas the last slide, you just saw 3, which would be an example of perceptual. So I'm going to flash the remaining slides, and I ask that you look through them and just kind of think about what questions would you pose for students, and is this an example of conceptual or perceptual subitizing? Please take time to review the Subitizing Daily Routine, which is featured on the resource section of CMAP. At this time, I just want to highlight some important things to remember when utilizing this daily routine. Again, this is a teacher-led daily routine that students will participate in for quarters 1 through 4. The way that the daily routine is outlined, it will move and progress from smaller numbers and simpler arrangements to larger numbers and more difficult arrangements. Provided within this daily routine is an implementation chart where you can see the number range in which students will practice for each quarter. Looking at the entire year, we will not exceed arrangements past 10. And that is intentional because we want to build a really strong understanding of number combinations within 10 to support addition and subtraction. Some of the pattern types that you will see within the slides for your Subitizing daily routine will be dice patterns, odd patterns, which are those scattered arrangements, and then structured patterns, which will be in the guise of 5 frames, 10 frames, and domino. You will access your Subitizing cards through PowerPoint slides, which are identified to match the implementation guide. One thing to remember when utilizing the PowerPoint slides is that it will be very important that the slides are shuffled or utilized in a different order as you are projecting them for students. You do not want the students to memorize the order of the slides. You want them to be focused on being able to see the pips and the quantities that are being flashed. Also, we have the Subitizing daily routine through Smart Notebook. So if you have a smart board in your classroom, you'll be able to utilize that daily routine. You will be able to utilize the daily routine through Smart. We have also included a print version. We are not advocating that you print these cards and utilize them because we have created cards to take you through the entire year, which turned out to be about 200 and some odd pages. So that's a lot of printing and cutting. And with every classroom having projection of some type, we advocate that you use either the PowerPoint slides or the Smart Notebook. And lastly, the most important piece here is the student questioning and response. This is a teacher-led daily routine because we want you as a teacher asking those questions to really get students to think about what they're seeing and how they're seeing those number combinations. And we want you as a teacher to be assessing whether or not students are really capturing and understanding this by listening in for that strong 100% choral response. If you are not getting that strong 100% choral response, that's an indication that maybe the numbers and the arrangements are too difficult and you may have to move back to more simpler numbers and arrangements. Counting provides students with one access point for adding and subtracting, where Subitizing is the foundation for virtually every other strategy that is taught and assessed in kindergarten and in first grade.